My name is Sarah Drummond, and I'm a nature artist. I have been drawing and painting as long as I can remember, and I grew up in a very rural area with a family who really valued the natural world. My father was a scientist, a biologist, so I have a very long history of connecting with nature visually and through my art. I would describe it as realistic. I try to draw what I see, and I work in a variety of different media. I really enjoy watercolor, and that's actually the media I most often work in. The pieces that you see behind me here, hanging in the gallery here at East Library, are actually linocuts, block prints. And that is something I've gotten into more in the last 5 to 10 years. The process I use to create block print images, like the ones you see behind me, is essentially the same as creating a giant rubber stamp. I use a linoleum block like this. As you can see, it's not really linoleum like you would use on a floor. It's sort of a rubberized material. And I use a special tool to carve away the areas of the picture that I want to remain white in the final version. So it works as a mirror image. You can see the actual block is a reverse image of what ended up on paper. Well, this is my current sketchbook. It's also a little bit of a nature journal and a field notebook. I work as a naturalist guide in Southeast Alaska in the summers, and so I write down a lot of my observations there in this book. I really feel strongly about working from life and drawing from life and drawing what I see. This particular page to which I've opened the book shows a pair of brown bear twins at a salmon run. And here I was in charge of a group of people. I was guiding them. This was a very safe, controlled area, I should point out, since it is bears. But we were looking through telescopes and binoculars and watching the animals, and I had a little bit of time to draw what I was seeing. Whatever the final product ends up looking like, especially in this book, it's very valuable to me because it's a record of what went on in my mind, and it's essentially the storehouse of whatever information I was able to gather as I had that time looking at the subject. My first children's book was published earlier in 2013. It's called Raven and the Red Ball. It's a wordless story. It's told entirely in pictures. I originally created this story for a very dear friend who had a black lab and loved ravens. We would go for winter walks, and his dog would bring along a red ball, and the dog enjoyed burying the ball and then finding it again over and over. And my friend Jim looked up and noticed a raven following us one day and said, "I think that raven is curious about my black dog. He always shows up when I have the dog with me." And it just came into my head fairly fully formed at that point, and I spent the next couple years really working on it. Jim was diagnosed with cancer toward the end of that time, and so I pushed hard to get it done, and I was able to give it to him before he died. So it's a really lovely thing that this particular story, which reminds me of someone who was important in my life, was the first story I was able to have published and share with other people. I draw because I love to look at things. I had a friend who once said, drawing is such a great excuse to stare at something for a long time. I paint and draw because I can't help it. I love to learn, and I'm curious about the world, especially the natural world, and I can't think of a better way of learning more about it than to draw it.